Hi, everybody. I have Bijal with me today, and she is from London and she's going to be sharing her story with us. She's very kindly come on, and Bijal wants to explain a little bit about what's been going on with her and her MS. So, Bijal, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing?
I'm well, thanks. Thank you, Laura, for inviting me. I'm very grateful. I'm a bit nervous, so if I stop in the middle, then please forgive me. You've introduced me, and I'm from London. I've lived here most of my life, and I was diagnosed with MS about a year ago.
A year ago, that again is very, very recent, really, in terms of being diagnosed with MS. Can I just ask you, actually, because it's something that I've not asked anybody before, has there or was there something that happened in the lead up to your MS in terms of, something that happened in your life that maybe triggered some stress or anything like that to potentially cause your symptoms with your MS?
Yes. My story is a bit strange, if I can call it that. Um, my symptoms, or I call them symptoms, which I didn't know that they were a symptom at the time, was around 2015. Um, I went to have a tetanus vaccination at my local GP surgery, and I was due one. So at that time, the nurse said to me, "Would you like it in your arm or would you like it on the side, by your hip?" And I said, "Okay, you can put it on the hip, it's fine." And then, and I'm not saying this is related at all, but I remember that one time because from there the symptoms started. Within hours, I had twisted my ankle while traveling to work. I used to work in central London. I used to get the underground trains, and I twisted my ankle a couple of times. And I thought, oh well, maybe it's just me, and I'm a bit clumsy, and I'll be carrying my heavy bag. Then within a space of a week, I twisted the same ankle around 4 times. Um, and and then I thought, okay, I still didn't make anything of it. I went to my GP, who then referred me, told me to put ice and thought it's just an ankle sprain. But then I started to get other symptoms like tingling, in my ankle. And so I went back to the GP, and then he referred me to the physiotherapist, and then I was treated there with exercises. That went on for some time, but then I started to get pain shooting up my leg on the same leg on the same side. And I thought, this is not an ankle injury, this is something different.
Yeah, something a bit more serious.
Yeah. Um, so then I went back to the GP, and he said, no, it's just the ankle. Then luckily I had private health insurance at the time from where I was working. So I went to a private neurologist who then asked me to have an MRI. When the results came out, initially he didn't say it was MS. He said it was something called myelopathy. It's just a weakness that's developed, and there's nothing there. And then he referred me to the hospital of neurology, where he was seeing, and told me to have an MRI every year, just to monitor things. First couple of MRIs I had, there was nothing there, and then suddenly I started to get different lesions, what they were seeing, but my symptoms were not increasing. I wasn't getting pain anywhere else. It was just the ankle that was weak.
In the ankle. So when these lesions were showing up, were the lesions in your brain or were they in your spine? Where were the lesions showing?
I think there was one in the spine where I get some pain, but there was maybe one in the brain. So there were small ones. But ever since the first time they saw it, they've increased every year. And then I got diagnosed last year with multiple sclerosis, and I didn't take any. I'm not on any medication or any treatments at the moment, but they are looking to start me on some in a couple of weeks.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you had so you had all this trouble going on with your your ankle, you obviously knew it was a bit more serious than just a twisted ankle or an ankle sprain or something. Did you have any idea that it could be something like MS?
No, I mean, in my family, there's no one that suffers from it. You know, you hear about things like diabetes and blood pressure and
Yeah.
all these other conditions, but people don't really know much about MS. And the symptoms are sometimes hidden, so it's not something that's visible. You asked me, yeah, you asked me earlier on if there were any stressful periods. That there were, um, you know, during all this. So there were stressful times. Um, in my own personal life, uh, you know, there was stress, and I think that's what triggered, maybe perhaps, you know, the fast tracking of symptoms and the disease itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you say that, because I think if everybody looks back at the time before they were diagnosed, there's usually something stressful going on in their life at that time, and there's generally a trigger that causes the symptoms. It was in my case. I think it was in a lot of people's cases that I've spoken to prior to them having their diagnosis as well. But it's not something that you think about, is it, at the time? You just think you've got a bit of stress, you can deal with it. But our bodies, I think, deal with it in a different way. And that's the way, unfortunately, that it comes out. So you said that
Yeah.
you're going on to treatment now in the next couple of weeks. Is that a disease modifying drug type of treatment? What type of treatment is that you're going to be going on to?
Yeah, so the last conversation I had with my consultant was on the phone. Because of COVID, we can't go into the hospitals, and he'd
Yeah,
seen this MRI scan, and he said, you know, I am having other symptoms on the other side of my leg, but he goes, that could be compensation of using that side of the leg more than the other because it's been weak for so long, you know.
yeah.
But he doesn't want to take risks, so he asked me if I was happy to start these drugs, and I wasn't, because I'm very I'd rather have natural therapy and
Yeah.
natural sort of, yeah. And he knew how nervous I was, so he suggested Avonex and Ocrevus.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But yeah, and then he said, I know you're nervous and you're not happy to have this, so I will get the MS nurse, to give you a call and you can discuss your problem, you know, your issues. And I did, and then we agreed on, I think it's Brabio, which is also an injectable, um, 3 times a week at home. But it's the same thing. It does, you know, it's a disease
Um,
modifying drug.
how do you feel about injecting yourself?
I'm really scared. Um, I'm not a big fan of injections and things. It does play on my mind, but I know that I have to sort of take these to stop the symptom, or not get any more lesions, and then maybe get any disabilities further.
I was just going to ask you, have they, for this medication that they're going to be offering you now, have they given you a percentage of how well it's going to help you? How effective, sorry, it might be for you?
Yeah, the nurse sent me some slides that I could go through about this particular drug, and I think it cuts. It's said to reduce these lesions by a third at least.
That's good.
Yeah.
Does it make you feel a bit more positive hearing that? I know you wanted to do things naturally, but sometimes hearing that news, it feels like positive, and you probably don't want to go on having your MRI scans and finding more lesions there. So maybe hearing that news, is that something that makes you feel like you want to take that disease because of the benefits that it could bring to you?
Yeah. After the initial shock and denial, I think I was in denial for a long time. Um, And now that I've accepted it, it's easier to deal with the fact that I will have to take this medication. But I also know that it will help me to manage my MS. And if I can get the lesions under control, then I can manage the disability, the symptoms that I have a bit better. But I can also then use functional medicine and other therapies to help me heal. So yeah, it is quite positive in that way. But I still have my own fears. I guess I haven't started any drugs, so I'm at that crux of um, the transition of going into these taking medicine.
Yeah, I remember being at your point of diagnosis, and I I was just like you, just going on to my trial for the Lemtrada, and it is scary. You have so many things to read, because that medication or the treatment that you're going to go on to can then cause different side effects as well. So you have that to take into consideration. But I think sometimes that when you're in the situation that you are with your MS, like you said, you have pain, and it's almost the unknown if you're going on and you're having lesions every year, and they're developing, and they're getting more. You feel like sometimes you don't have a choice, and you'll literally do anything to just stop the progression of the disease. So I think that, and especially definitely for me, I don't know for you, but the pain is a huge factor in determining your choices of what you do in the future, especially with treatments and things like that.
Yeah. The pain. Describe the pain because it's at the beginning it's unbearable, but then I think when you're in pain, when someone's in pain, they develop this high tolerance level to it, and something that's quite painful becomes quite numbing. Yeah, and now when I get pain in my lower back or my shoulder, I just think, well, it's there, and you just handle it. Just like I've lived with a weak ankle for almost 6 years, you manage to balance yourself, and
Yeah,
yeah.
I know, but
Yeah.
it's, you shouldn't. I know so many people live in the world of pain, but you shouldn't have to. It shouldn't be something that you just put up with. It feels so unkind for people to be having to just live through pain. It's not fair.
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
this medication, have they said anything about reducing? Does it reduce your pain, or do you have other medication alongside to help reduce pain?
Um, no, the nurse never spoke about the pain levels, but I think once the drugs are administered, I think they might have an effect on the pain levels because it is the immune system at a certain level which then triggers inflammation, I guess, and that's where the pain
Yeah,
comes from. So,
yeah,
yeah, the one good thing about being diagnosed and now accepting that I have it is that I've started to look at food and lifestyle and
yeah,
stress levels.
yeah,
You know, I was always that way inclined, but I guess I'm reading about it more. I'm watching, like your channel, which gave me that inspiration that I'm not alone
thank
in
you.
this. I'm not going mad when I feel I'm getting pain or and I mean I'm come from an Asian background, and you know it's difficult to describe to my own family members that I'm in pain because there are no visible symptoms.
Yeah, I
So
was just about to ask you actually. You're newly diagnosed, so it's difficult for you to accept. And as you said, you have accepted. I'm sure there will be times along your journey where you'll still have times where it's difficult and you'll have setbacks and things like that. But as you said, you do go through different stages. But how has it been for your family? How have they been able to, have they accepted your um, diagnosis?
um, I think they've just only accepted it after my recent call with the consultant, even though they knew I was visiting the hospital on regular basis. The fact that I have a condition, if they don't know everything about it, um, they've accepted that too, and they know I will be taking these drugs. Um, I'm sure they're scared themselves because they don't really know much about it, but um, I think it's about having just taking that time and you know once I get used to the drugs, then maybe I can try to change my lifestyle as well. And I know, like you said at the beginning of this session, that stress is a big thing, and I do know that that does trigger things. When I get stressed out, my symptoms almost immediately get worse.
Yeah,
So
I I do. I really massively believe stress is hugely a contributing factor to A, bringing on the disease in the first place, and B, contributing to it going forward. Because it's like you said, if you get stressed now, your symptoms almost flare up instantly. And it's exactly the same with me as well. Even the smallest bit of stress, it just seems to exacerbate the symptoms. And I just really think that it's not easy steering clear from stress, because obviously we have stress in everyday life, but where you
yeah,
can avoid it, definitely try to avoid it.
yeah, and I haven't been good at managing stress um, generally. So I know that, especially now with so many people under stress because of the situation in the world, people are at home, life has changed. So it's managing that stress.
Yeah.
And when I'm
So you,
working, yeah, I try to manage that stress and then the condition as well.
right. So you're still working full time, are you, with your MS?
Yeah, yeah.
Well done,
Uh,
you, because that's difficult, working full time with something that's not easy to manage, and with the pain and everything, plus COVID, plus just going on to a disease modifying drug. That's all
yeah.
difficult to manage in itself, and that's quite stressful too. So
Mm.
are there things that you do to manage your stress?
Um, I try to do like mindfulness. I
Yeah.
work for I work in the civil service, and they're quite big on that thing about meditation, mindfulness, and they have weekly sessions, just half an hour online for everyone that's working from home. You can log in and do that session, um, and I know that that does help calm the mind.
Yeah.
Don't think about the past, and you won't think about the future because you can't control those. You just think about now, and that does help me. It's like if you're having a cup of tea or coffee or a drink, you just focus on that drink. You don't focus on.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just gulp it
Yeah.
down while we're working,
Yeah.
and we don't taste it. Yeah, and all these things are helping me to manage my mind. I think.
Oh,
Um,
that's brilliant. I actually watched something. I can't remember what it was now, but it was something where somebody was eating some chocolate, and I think it was like a minstrel or something, and they'd given it to somebody, and they said the different textures. People will just crunch through that minstrel,
yeah,
but actually just take it and savor the different textures and the different flavors, and it's surprising how focused you can become on something, and you can just forget everything else around you. I mean, that's just obviously one small example, but if
yeah.
you can take example and then apply it in life, actually, I think you can um, just focus on the things that probably matter at that point in time, rather than we can
Yeah,
let ourselves get a bit out of control and focus on the things that aren't necessarily so important. If that makes sense.
yeah, absolutely. So I realized how much I was not concentrating on even the food I was eating or what I was drinking, because my mind was always busy, and
Yeah.
um, And I think that's a cause of a lot of irritation and stress. When we're always busy with the past or the future, and that could be what I will do later on today, what I've done yesterday, this person
Yeah.
is this, and it's kind of helped me to calm down. Now, when I do have a drink, I focus on just the drink, and that's where I
Yeah.
am. I can control this moment. I can't control the future or the past. Also, things like I think I saw on one of your videos about essential oils, candles, organic things. I'm really big on that. I find that just staring at a candle or just using an oil, it really calms the mind. Um, when I get really stressed and I'm worried about this, I've got an appointment in a couple of weeks where, I'm worried about side effects of the drugs. Will I, need a walking stick? All these strange thoughts come into my mind, and that helps me calm things down. Yeah, so that's what I'm doing. I'm also reading about people who've actually reduced their lesions and just from food and lifestyle changes.
Yeah, that's interesting. You should say that because my neurologist was telling me about the lesions in my brain and how they've shrunk.
Wow.
And I did a video, but she said that she couldn't give a cast iron guarantee that it was the treatment that had shrunk them, or she said actually it could just be that your body that has naturally, over time, because of everything that you've been doing with food or, or just naturally your body has just shrunk them. But I couldn't get that concept because I thought that it couldn't just be done naturally. But I guess maybe over time it can be done. And if you start to look after yourself maybe properly, I think you start to educate yourself a bit more just because you become more aware of your body, which maybe we weren't before because we just go along thinking that we're okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I guess things that people take for granted day to day, it's much
Yeah,
more highlighted for us. For me, movement or just doing something, it's harder. It takes more effort, and so you then start becoming um, wary of things. It's definitely brought an awareness to me, and I've recently been reading about a doctor in America who had secondary progressive MS, and she was
yeah.
on. She's quite popular. I think she's very famous now.
Is that
And
Terry
her,
Wall?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I've
So I
heard of
recently
her.
got the book, and I'm reading it, and she starts off not just about talks about her own life and how active she was. She wasn't overweight. She wasn't sedentary. She was a doctor. She's a doctor herself. She worked in hospital. So traditional medicine was her thing, and then she became ill with this condition, and she unfortunately ended up in a wheelchair. So how she's turned her life around in a year just to be able to cycle from being in a wheelchair. It's amazing. But in the book, she's very sensible about things. Probably her doctor, because she's a doctor, she gives that practical, logical approach that, you know, keep a diary, diarize your thoughts and your symptoms. If you eat something during the day and the next day you feel more pain, what did you have the previous day? And those things are so important because you'll
Yeah.
eat something and even put two and two together. So it's just a learning process, to be honest. I'm learning about my body, my thoughts, um, what I put in my mouth, how I react to people and situations. Um, yeah,
So in a way, has MS kind of taught you some things, or is it kind of showing you some things that you may never have done if you hadn't have been diagnosed?
definitely, definitely. It's made me think about the present more, and it's made me want to change for the better. I've started to look at all these different medicines and vitamins that I'd never heard of before,
Mm.
and how I might be deficient in so much, which has probably led to a condition over a long period of time. Because Dr. Walsh also says in the book that you had MS a long time before you got the first symptoms.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've read that too.
yeah. And that was just a trigger point, perhaps the stress of that time or something you'd had that just triggered it, that manifested what was going on inside your body. I mean, I've heard of so many different supplements that I've never heard of all my life, and you know, you hear about vitamin complexes, but then you don't hear about things like zeolite and coenzymes and amino acids and how all they interact in the body.
Yeah.
To, you know, so you know, I'm hopeful that alongside the medications, I'll be able to change some things with diet and lifestyle too, which is quite, just as important, I think.
Definitely, yeah. Well, you said you started off by saying you felt nervous, but I think you've done an absolutely amazing talk today. Thank you so much for sharing everything with us. Is there anything that you feel that you want to add in which you feel was important to share with us, or anything that you want to maybe say to anybody out there who's been newly diagnosed or is soon into their diagnosis like you?
Yeah. No, I just want to say, you know, don't be afraid. I know it's a really difficult time when you get diagnosed with MS. It's and sometimes we can go into denial. And I was in denial for a long time. I thought, no, it's just my ankle, but it wasn't. When you accept that it is what it is, you can then stop the process of depression and start the process of healing. Um, and that could be with a mixture of the medications and lifestyle, and and also you can change your life around completely, and begin to prioritize what's really not needed.
Yeah.
Have a clear out in a way. So I'd say don't be afraid. Talk to people. You know, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Talk to people. You know, look. There are so many helpful people out there who are the same thing, and
Yeah.
don't feel like you're alone. Yeah, because you're not alone. There's
No,
always some. Yeah.
I massively agree actually, since doing these videos and stuff, and to be honest, that is my main aim really, is because I felt like that a long time ago. I felt quite isolated. I didn't really have too many people to talk to. I didn't really feel like I wanted to talk to anyone. I felt like I could handle everything myself. And to an extent, I still am quite independent with my MS, but I love now sharing it with, I love sharing my experiences to be able to help others. And as you said, um, you don't want people to feel like they're on their own, because they're really, really not. There's so many people out there who want to help. So many people out there who want to help, who actually don't even have MS. They want to take their time out to volunteer and help other people who have MS as well, which I think is amazing. But other people who do have MS that want to come together and almost just share their experiences to help each other, and I think just comfort each other as well. So, massive thank you to you to share your story, and I think you've been really brave as well, and amazing, and you weren't nervous at all,
Thank
and
you
you
so
didn't need
much.
to stop either.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you for giving me a
Oh,
chance
no,
to
no,
say
no, not at all. This is this is not about me. This is about you guys and your stories, and you don't need to be thanking me. I should be thanking you for sharing them, because it's actually a privilege for me to hear what you've been through, because it's totally different to me, and I feel privileged for you sharing your story with me. So thank you.
no, you're most welcome, and I hope it helps someone out there.
I'm sure it'll help so many people. Thank you so much for your time. I hope that everything works out with you with the treatments and everything, and please keep us updated as well.
I most definitely will. I'll be watching your videos.
Oh, thank you so much. Take care
See you.
and see you soon. Bye.